Hello, and welcome back to the weekly astrology podcast where we light our candles, we get cozy, and we talk all things cosmos. I'm your host, astrologer, and coach, Sarah Posh, and tonight is a little extra special episode. There's so many things personally happening for me right now that relate deeply to this astrology, and as somebody who was born with this transit, who has lived through my Saturn return, which means I've lived through Saturn returning both to Saturn and my Saturn Neptune, I really I value, and I hold in deep reverence and regard the reality, the hardship, the tenderness, the realness of these moments of difficult choice, these moments of great change, of great sacrifice, worthy sacrifice. So I hope that all of you know you are not alone. I give you all strength. I wish you all blessings, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Are you somebody who's born with a significant Saturn-Neptune aspect in your chart? If you have no idea, linked below, you could book a consultation, we could talk about it. Are you just feeling this? Are you feeling the weight of the moment? Are you feeling the weight of not just the end of this year, but the end of an era? And how are you feeling? How are you feeling right now? I hope that you're not feeling alone. I hope that you know that at least I am with you somewhere in space and in time. And I'm sending myself and you and all of us so much love, so much compassion. I'm going to be delivering an episode to you today that isn't about the specific transits that are happening. Those have been covered in the recent Gemini full moon episode, so you can check those out, as well as your personal rising sign horoscope and tarot card reading. But today I'm going to break down a series of transits that's going to be unfolding between now, the time basically of this Gemini full moon, through January. And this is a series of squares between the planets in Sagittarius, moving through squares to Saturn in Pisces, and then Neptune in Pisces. In case you're somebody who doesn't listen to a lot of astrology or track the transits and you're unaware, there is a major conjunction happening between the planets of Saturn and Neptune this February 2026. This is a rare aspect. It hasn't happened since 1989. If you were born in that generation, you were born with this conjunction, including me. And this is a significant transitional moment collectively and personally for all of us. And right now we are at the threshold of beginning that next phase, that next cycle of Saturn and Neptune. And the reason I feel called to create this week's episode, specifically talking about these squares and about Saturn Neptune, is because the truth of the matter is that we are about to move into territory that none of us have ever lived in this lifetime. We are about to go through a major change in trajectory on every level. Everything will change. Everything is already undergoing change. That's really what 2025 was about, was this like preview, foreshadowing, introduction. But in 2026, we land fast and we land hard. And I've realized that the way that the end of the year of 2025 ends is really this beautiful, heavy, hard. There is a gravity. There is a reality check. There is a seriousness that maybe you're feeling. I know I'm feeling. And the transits that are going to be playing out over the next month, the last month of 2025, really speak to this transit, to this time. And this is the time. This is the time of the end that has to happen before the new beginning, any new beginning. So all of these planets that are entering into this series, they're not only squaring Saturn, but they're also tethering together the Saturn-Neptune conjunction by completing their transit through Sagittarius with that square to Neptune and Pisces. Saturn-Neptune is a combination of choice meets sacrifice. So I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about these Saturn-Neptune squares. I'm going to talk first about the point in the cycle in which these planets are making these squares. I'm also going to talk about what each planet is invited to make very serious, sober considerations and choices and sacrifices as we go through the last month, what that could all mean, and where that leaves us. There's also so many things available on either my website or my channel that have a lot of information for you to learn about Saturn, because Saturn is such a big part of this conversation. So whether you check out the Saturn and Aries workshop that is now available for digital purchase on my website, where I go into depth with Alexandra Blair of 9 Lives Astrology, not just about Saturn and Aries, which is coming, but also about Saturn transits, Saturn cycles, all of those things. I definitely encourage you to check that out. Also, the All About Malefics with Mars and Saturn, that's a great episode to get informed more deeply about Saturn. And then, of course, we've also got registration open for the live event going over the full year ahead 2026 astrology, and all of that is linked for you below. With that, let's go ahead and let's start with talking about Saturn. And I'm actually going to read you a quote, one of my favorite all-time quotes about Saturn, and it comes from Stephen Forrest, his book, The Inner Sky. So I'll go ahead and take a moment to read that to you now. Forrest writes, Jupiter is the planet of faith, but in a sense, it is Saturn that truly deserves the title. Jupiter gives us the feeling of faith, but often by supporting us with 1,000 crutches. Sure, I've got faith. Life is great. Look at my bank account, my sex mate, my brand new Mercedes. Saturn's approach to faith is not like that. He takes away the crutches. He shows us darkness, impossibility, certain defeat. Then he asks, do you still have faith? Again, this faith has nothing to do with religion. It is faith in life, in oneself, in our dreams and visions, in our ideals. It is faith in the idea that we have a destiny. And only if those visions can stand alone, unassisted, in the face of absolute impossibility, can we say that we truly have faith. Until then, we are still riding with training wheels. Thank you, Stephen Forrest. Again, from The Inner Sky. On its own, I would say that I relate to sacrifice when I think of Saturn on its own. Saturn is the most significant planet in astrology that has to do with choice. Because Saturn is the ruler of our reality, of materiality, of form. Our choices, always with Saturn, will always produce real consequences. And Saturn always confronts us and makes us make difficult choices and says, this is your choice. Do you choose your consequence, your long-term consequence? And as we go through Saturn transits, there's different phases of a Saturn transit. But at this point, these planets in Sagittarius that are squaring Saturn are in what's called a waning phase square. They are in the final third quarter phase. They are in the final turning point in a cycle of maturity, of growth, of choice, and of consequence when it comes to Saturn and Saturn in Pisces. Each planet is going to confront this final turning point, confronting Saturn, confronting difficult choices, choices that require a certain level of sacrifice. A waning square in any relationship to Saturn is about soul integration. This is about recognizing the growth and the development and the choices and the effort and the time that we have put in all the way through this Saturn cycle up until this point. We can not only see how far we've come, but we can also see at this point what it is that has to be let go, that is non-essential to the future, the next cycle that we claim to want to begin. And the truth is that, yes, sometimes the benefics, Jupiter and Venus, we get a little kiss, a little blessing, a little unexpected benefic gift that gives us this gift of growth, of expansion, of possibility or opportunity. But those things that feel like luck, they don't land and stay inside of who we are and who we are becoming the way that a Saturn reward does. And that is because of the difficult choice that we made, because of the sacrifice that we were willing to make. So taking all of this into consideration, these planets in these squares to Saturn, they're at a final phase, a final turning point. Hopefully there's been a certain level in development of maturity, of growth, of lessons learned. And now there's a certain level of embodied integrity and character and clarity around what it is that we desire to build next, what we desire to build from, who we desire to become. And on a deeper and potentially more meaningful level, what it is that truly has value to who we are today, who we are in this moment, what it is that we truly authentically care about, and how we are choosing to show up in alignment with that, how our actions, our choices, our relationships, everything. And then we tie in Neptune. And Neptune is the planet that dissolves and brings meaning and connects us to something outside of this 3D Saturn reality. It reminds us that we are a speck of dust in the entire universe, that it is an ocean not of me, but of we. We're all connected. It's all interconnected. It all has meaning, and the things that we put the rose-colored glasses on, the mirages of projection that we create, the ideals that we project onto life, ourselves, others, Neptune washes all of that away. It brings us back into this place of soul, into a place of remembering, of slowing down, of saying, this is not everything. In its essence, I think that Neptune reminds us what has meaning beyond material meaning. So whether you're somebody spiritual or not, whether you connect Neptune to religion or not, Neptune in a natal chart, Neptune by transit, collective transit, personal transit, its meaning, its intention is to drop you back into the remembering that everything is impermanent, that at the same time, everything matters and nothing matters. And if you're doing everything for Saturn's reality, for some surface level sense of security in the material realm, some sense of validation of who you are in this lifetime, in this moment, but it doesn't actually mean anything to you, it doesn't actually call to something deeper in your soul, there's an emptiness you feel at the end of a successful day, that's Neptune. That's Neptune asking you to slow the fuck down and to reevaluate, to ask, what matters? What really matters? And we can never go through a Saturn or a Neptune transit alone without a connection to what matters, without a connection to sacrifice. And I guess after recording that Gemini full moon episode, recording those horoscopes, talking about these big decisions, talking about the gravity, the importance of slowing down and prioritizing, and then actually living through the moment, it just hit me on a deeper level that it's important. It's important that we all take into consideration that whatever choices we make right now, the long-term consequences will reflect the gravity of our connection to what matters. What matters now, what we claim matters about what comes next, about our future. Every decision right now has such a gravity to it. If you're going through the month of December into January, if you're going through these squares of the personal planets in Sagittarius to Saturn and Neptune, and you don't feel like you're sacrificing anything, you don't feel like you're making any tough decisions or letting go, saying no in a way that brings all of your shit up, all of the part of you that doesn't want to grow up, doesn't want to show up, doesn't want to give it up. Of course it doesn't want to give it up. That's not the point. You don't have to give it up, by the way. This comes back to choice. And I guess because maybe I'm born with it, Saturn-Neptune conjunction. Maybe it's a Gemini full moon. Or maybe it's just the reality that if you're somebody, if you're anybody who wants to live with any sense of purpose, of meaning, of value, of integrity, if you want to wake up, live a successful day, and at the end of the day feel full, then right now, this is your moment to overcome the resistance to letting something old go, to letting yourself grow up, letting yourself make valuable, conscious, intentional sacrifices. And trust they will be rewarded. All the choices will be rewarded, but you get to choose. We all get to choose. So for now, let's just keep all of this in mind. This invitation of letting go, of integration, of coming into a alignment of choice, action, and meaning, purpose, and future potential creation. All right, so we're gonna start with the sacrifice with Mars. Mars in Sagittarius is going to square Saturn in Pisces at 25 degrees on Monday, December 8th. And then it's going to square Neptune in Pisces at 29 degrees on Sunday, December 14th. With Mars, we want to think about this waning square, this threshold of what was, what is, and what could be or will be around the sacrifice related to action, ambition, and fight. What is worth fighting for? What is it that you care so deeply about? You're going to prioritize, commit to, defend, advocate for in action. Following Mars is the Sun. The Sun in Sagittarius will first square Saturn in Pisces at 25 degrees on Tuesday, December 16th, and then square that Neptune in Pisces at 29 degrees on Saturday, December 20th. So what is the sacrifice of self, of ego, of identity? What part of yourself must be let go in order to give more value, more meaning, more effort, more faith in the version of you that can only be built, that can only be created, that it can only be made real if you let that old part go? This is the biggest grow up and show up moment, in my opinion, when it comes to the Sun. And then we've got Venus. Venus in Sagittarius squares Saturn in Pisces the same day as the Sun square Neptune on Saturday, December 20th at 26 degrees. And then Venus squares Neptune at 29 degrees on Tuesday, December 23rd. This is our sacrifice of relationship, of connection, of harmony, of pleasure, of value, of beauty. Venus needs to prove the future that she wants to build, the new standard of reality when it comes to our partnerships, our social dynamics, our friendships, how we give and receive the things that bring us satisfaction and joy and pleasure. And Venus will have to go through that gauntlet of sacrifice, proving what truly has value, letting something go after the sun. And then finally, Mercury in Sagittarius will square Saturn in Pisces at 26 degrees on Monday, December 29th, and then make that square to Neptune in Pisces at 29 degrees on Thursday, January 1st. The first day of the year. And Mercury, as this final player crossing these thresholds of sacrifice, will initiate us into what we truly claim through our choice, through our word, and matters of perception, personal perception. Are you willing to let an old, outgrown way, or maybe a way that keeps you stuck, of seeing things go in order to allow yourself to open into what else might be possible that's in aligned with what you really care about? Also, sacrifices when it comes to agreements that we make, or any sacrifices when it comes to the way that we utilize our voice. Tonight's episode is really about just taking this moment to pause, to check in, to ask yourself, this Gemini full moon, I already told you it's no bullshit, it's big decisions, it's a huge turning point. It's asking you to slow down and hit the stop sign, but the stop sign doesn't end with Mars, it actually starts with Mars. And everything that we do or don't do, that we choose or don't choose, that we say or don't say, everything now will play out, will have consequence, whether that's a reckoning or reward, through the long term, through this next Saturn Neptune conjunction and their next beginning of a major new cycle. Again, I'm Sarah Posh, astrologer and coach, and thank you all so much for being here. I can't wait to be with you back next week when we're going to talk about the final transits of this godly, never-ending, seemingly, Scorpio new moon cycle before we get to the Sag new moon cycle.